What I try to do is to get geeks and people in the tech community to care about stuff that matters. And it seems to me that the challenge that's been laid down by Obama to build a more open, transparent, and responsive government is one of the great challenges of our day. We have a unique opportunity. And what I'm interested in is saying, guys, come on, let's take this opportunity. We have first of all, the Republicans are in opposition, and the opposition party always loves transparency, right? So we have the incumbent asking for transparency, the opposition asking for transparency. So it's now or never. We have this huge opportunity in the next 2 years to make the government more open and transparent, and I believe that the technology community has the power to help make that happen. And in particular, I believe that there's a new model for a kind of public-private partnership, because I've just been here all week talking to people, and some of the stories about how hard it is to get things done inside of government. Whereas you'll see outside people are hacking sites that are providing government information. So part of what I'm trying to figure out is how I can help the people on the government side to see what they need to do to enable that activity. Like, what does it mean for government to be a platform, or government data to be a platform on which citizens and all this sort of bottom-up activity can actually do the transparency. So it's changing the rules a little bit. I think we need to get away from the model that somehow the government has to build a better website. Thinking about, no, how does the government start to think of itself as a platform for citizen activism, for citizen involvement, for commercial involvement, and we're at a tipping point there where how we think about this is going to change the way we solve problems. I think we have again, we're at this unique moment in time. We have a crisis that requires us to do more with less, and we're spending a lot of money to stimulate the economy. And so there's all these funny factors. We can spend it badly, we can spend it well. We can, we can bring in change, or we can reinforce what's already broken. And and there are people who care. A wonderful mix, to try to organize. And I think it's a great time for us to be trying to make a difference. Man, after all, the idea. I literally was here. Gave a talk to a bunch of congressional aides, must have been in 1993, about the promise of the internet. And the House, IS department took me in a back room before my talk and said, we don't want you to get them too excited because we're not going to give it to them. So we fought that battle back in the early 90s for just the first wave of the internet. And I have to say, actually, there's, and there were a lot of people who made that happen. And there was a wave of activism. That story of people from the outside working, that was how we got, for example, Carl Malamud put the SEC online that way as an outsider, saying, hey, we can make this, we can do it. And I think we're just seeing that again, where the people are turbocharging the activity. We can move so much faster on the outside than it can on the inside. And what I think we have to do is to encourage. It's not just the mixing of the policy wonks and the technology people, but also to encourage an attitude in government that says we can learn from the people. We can actually, this kind of goes back to the commercial sector. If you look at a couple of the great platform plays of Web 2.0, one of them is Google Maps. And people have probably already forgotten that the first Google Maps mashups were outsiders hacking the system. Housingmaps.com putting Google Maps together with Craigslist, or ChicagoCrime.org mapping government data onto Google Maps. They had actually decoded the format of Google Maps and did it using effectively unauthorized hacks. But what did Google do? They said, oh my God, great idea. Let's give them an API. Meanwhile, people who had already been ahead of Google in the mapping space, they had APIs, but their model was, give us your name and a salesperson will call you. Whereas Google said, let's encourage this innovation. And now you go look at a site like programmableweb.com, and there's 1,500 mashups against Google Maps, and there's maybe 100 against Microsoft or Yahoo. They embraced the innovation coming from outside and then turned themselves into a platform. And I think that story needs to be the government story. They need to say, okay, all these people are showing us what they want outside, and they're doing it using crude tools. Again, we use the term hack, which is to chop at something with crude blows, and that's, people are hacking the system. And now there's this opportunity for the government to say, oh, great, we see what Stimulus Watch is trying to do. So how do we take that and make it easier for them to do what they do? It's not like we're going to compete with them or we have to incorporate all those features. It's no, we have to say, what kind of data do we have to give? I was just overhearing a conversation in which they were talking about this. Like, okay, the government could say, hey, states, here's the format in which you need to report on stimulus projects. And then Stimulus Watch can do a better job of watching them. And it's the standardization that matters. So if you look back at, for example, the original World Wide Web, what was the essence of what happened? It was Tim Berners-Lee defined a format, HTML, and a protocol for communication, HTTP, and he did a reference implementation of a server and browser. But then his server and browser got thrown out, we got better ones, and all of the websites were built by other people. And in the same way, I think the government needs to figure out a few simple things to standardize, say, around the data, and then let the people go to town. We now have, hundreds of millions of websites, all based on a very simple idea. And I think, that's what we also want to see here. We want to see not the big, giant government data vending machine, but instead this idea of what does the government need to do to become a platform for outside innovation. I mean, I think in general this idea of people coming together for a camp, we started Foo Camp in 2003, and it was one of the first of these sort of unconference format events. It was followed by Bar Camp, and Bar Camp then gave birth to lots of other things. So I think it's certainly a relatively new phenomenon, and it's a great, it's self-organization from the beginning. I think when we did the first Foo Camp, Steve Levy called it the wiki of conferences. It's really what it is. You invite in a crowd, and they build the event, and it's a very powerful format because you can see from the bottom up what people care about. People propose sessions, and people either attend them or they don't. And the important ones float to the top, and you mix people from different groups. There's a lot of outside people here, there's some inside people, and I think we're going to see a lot more of it. Obviously there's Gov2O Camp later, there's a whole bunch of these, and I'm seeing, sensing this enormous ferment. It's really exciting.